This one's rolling. This one's rolling. Go for it.
So this is your 4th time at Skunk.
Yes.
Tell us about what you think of the festival and what your experience is.
Well, I've been coming here with various bands probably since around 2005, and it seemed very well established at that time. So I would say it's been going on a while, obviously. It's always been a very, very special, it's one of these cool things. It's been the same the whole time. It's like been just like this every
like
single time.
They intentionally keep it at this beautiful size.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I would say they probably have big years and maybe thin years, but it's just
there's a family vibe.
There's a constant to it.
You're so close. The audience is so close to the stage that it's really intimate. It feels like we're really like just right there.
Also, and in comparison to other festivals, it's the perfect balance between professional, very well done, and down home, laid back, chill. You know, not a lot of hassle involved with Skunkfest.
I also just really love how funky it is.
Yeah, I mean, everything
really
has vibe.
Yeah, everything has vibe. Even this setting that we're in right now.
Exactly.
Do you have any favorite stories, memories
of Skunk? Well, they always have the best moonshine.
Yep. Larry O and his char moonshine.
Oh, and last year we did
times.
the epic super jam with Billy Strings and his band.
Yep.
And we had the whole band.
We picked a lot after.
So
we picked at night. Yeah. It's always great when there's a festival that there's like jamming in a campground situation. Like
we really like the festivals that foster a sense of community, hanging out, picking, collaboration, and they leave space at Skunkfest. They leave space for stuff like that.
What's the craziest thing that's ever happened here?
Boy.
Lightning struck the guitarist while playing.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if this is that crazy, but I just remember like at the end of last year's set, wasn't there like it was like all this confetti or glitter? All of a sudden it was like
bubbles.
Oh, bubbles! Yeah. Yeah, all of a sudden at the end of the set there was just like these huge bubbles all up through the air. I don't know.
Was that a bubble machine or? I mean, it was just like bubbles.
It was a lot of bubbles.
Extreme bubbles.
It was surprising.
But then like today, second song. A huge parade of kids, waving flags and dancing just comes through, like right in front of us.
Yeah.
And it really kind of, set
So
the
you didn't know
vibe.
that was coming?
That's good. No,
I know it was coming.
A very pleasant surprise, I would say. Yeah.
upcoming record is Maybe Believe, and there seems to be a bit of a contrast with the title of that and say Lost at Last. Is there anything conscious about the way you've titled these records? What's going on?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. We worked with the producer, Dave King, the drummer for The Bad Plus, and he has been a very, I would say, formative, very strong force in the direction of our band. We did Lost at Last with him, and he kind of helped us figure out some things about what our strengths were, what our weaknesses were. Do we want to go all instrumental? Do we want to keep singing? And we eventually, he helped guide us towards the all instrumental, original, almost like fusion aspect of the band. And then it was like day 4, the last day of the session, and he's like, "Have you thought about the name for the record yet?" And I was like, "No," So he just wrote on a little piece of paper. He scribbled something and just like slid it to me. It's very dramatic.
That's him, man.
He said, "I've been holding on to this for a while, and I just want you to let me know what you think about it. You don't have to use it." And I was like, "Lost at Last, wow." And I was like, how perfect is that? Like, I mean, it fits. It just fits.
Because a big thing with us is finding ourselves transitioning, like kind of creating our own new sound that isn't just a little farther away from bluegrass.
New territory.
Like just kind of not really in any genre, but also somehow becoming like defining.
And Lost at Last was a real figuring out experience.
Yep, totally. It was.
There's more cover material on it, but with some originals and some of the originals were like older originals we've been playing. I'd recorded on early solo albums, and then so we decided to work with him again for the new album, and once again I didn't have a name for it, and we actually wrapped the session, and he was sitting in the airplane getting ready to take off leaving Asheville, and he texted me. He said, "Just an idea for the name of the new album, Maybe Believe." And I was like, it didn't click with me really at first, but I kind of sat on it, and it started making more and more sense the more I thought about it. And I was like, man, what awesome. Yeah. So Dave actually named the last 2 records. Pretty cool.
Edit that out, though.
Yeah.
I think, too, for me, Maybe Believe has this feeling of, like, maybe we can really believe in this. Maybe we're, like,
Yeah.
It feels like it has a lot of just good good energy and feeling about kind of our belief in what we're doing.
Yeah, and also when we were making the record, it also it had this sense of like, are we totally into this? And then like through the process of it, getting the takes, it was just like, yes.
Yeah, starting to feel more natural.
Yeah, and it really just somehow the music just turns into its thing, and you don't even barely notice how it becomes what it is.
And it's kind of really evolving too. It's definitely different than Lost at Last.
Sometimes during the process of it, we're like, are these all like?
And it's not too. It's not like, what if we had called it like, home run, like sliding, home plate slide. Like, no, it's like, no, we haven't hit the home run yet. We're still, figuring it out a little bit, leaving it open to grow.
aspects of that process, how, I know it's different probably for every single song, but how does that flow in general? I mean, are you working on something for months? Do you feel like? Or does it come together pretty fast?
A lot of times Jon makes a demo for a lot of songs, and that kind of does something like a lot of
kind of the same way
parts.
you did the same thing with yours too. It's like we make a basic demo and give it to each other, and then you can kind of like learn it yourself, get the basic idea, and then we get together and really, usually it takes us about a session to work up a tune. You know, it's like,
it goes pretty quick, honestly.
Yeah, and
because you've gotten it in advance and you've learned kind of the
playing
melody.
It live.
Then we work it out.
This record too is different because a lot of these tunes we had been playing for a while before we went and recorded it. Whereas Lost is Last, it was a little kind of more impromptu in the studio, and so this one we were really comfortable. In fact, we took a couple of songs where we just only played it one time on the recording, and that was the one we did. And I think that was because we had been playing that stuff for a while.
But yeah, a lot of it we work out live, you know, just like certain things will happen on a gig and then we'll kind of talk about it.
Start basic and let it grow. We consciously leave room for things to evolve.
Right.
There's one of our two, like we do this, the Blackberry Blossom tune we do, you know. Originally it had like little hints of the Jackson 5 thing.
Right.
But now it's like, there's like 10,000 quotes in it, you know. It's like Nirvana.
And they all just like...
we all did it spontaneously at shows.
Yeah, and then they stuck. That's what we were just saying to someone backstage. Like sometimes it feels like our show is an accumulation of things that we just did at a gig and then they stuck, you know? We used to never like rehearse.
Smells Like Teen Spirit. That came out one night at this just crappy gig that we were at in Roanoke, Virginia, and I was like in a bad mood, and I didn't even tell them. I like Blackberry Blossom was next on the list, but I just kicked it off with Smells Like Teen Spirit instead of the normal Jackson 5 thing. And we've done it every single time since then. I was like,
they didn't see it coming. It was
they were probably just like, what the hell?
What the heck are we doing here?
Stickley's lost it again.
Here we go. And fortunately, it was like the first song I ever learned how to play on the drums, pretty much. So I was like,
as our original music just wasn't lending itself to, you know, we don't write, we're not lyricists. Lyndsay, actually, you've written a lot of songs with lyrics. I've never written any songs with lyrics. I've written instrumental stuff, but since we stopped singing, it's become so much more for me a connection with the instrument. You know,
Yeah,
it's really
it really
intense.
feels like you are singing. You know, saying like speaking.
And you realize more and more what your instrument can do. I mean, it's like, because you're forced to, you're like looking at every possible sonic sound that can be done.
Yeah.
So like plastic
Opens
wheels
your
on
mind a
the
little bit,
roots.
yeah. Yeah. I had
That's
to recently
awesome.
stop banging on my guitar because I cracked it. Yeah. I used to like love drumming on it, especially this part on the side, but the sides of the guitar are extremely thin and brittle. And I was like, I won't crack it. And I get really excited one night. Yeah.
You're unique and also a rarity in that you're an instrumental band and a trio. So there are a couple of things that make me think of the power trio sort of parallel, but also how many instrumental bands can I think of? Do you have anybody that influences you as far as being an instrumental group?
Before you answer that, Jet Airplanes.
It feels like a good answer.
Yeah.
I haven't.
We could
It'd
go
be
on.
really
we
it's like
could
you're
go
just
on.
really philosophical and we can't hear anything.
Yeah.
We could go on forever. Should we
Yeah.
just take turns?
I was thinking that would be really funny. Like he slides the paper across, and you're like, "Oh yeah, let me counter offer." And you slide it back. And he's like, "Yeah, I can see that. Hang on." He does it again, slides it back again.
Yeah. No way.
That's the name of the album.
Hate it.
Like a question. What are you implying?
Yeah.
But I was just trying to think off the top of my head some instrumental bands like Shark Quest, Ventures, Pell Mell, Flecktones, well, a lot of the Flecktones stuff.
Yeah, that was
Tortoise.
gonna be my Bela Fleck and the Flecktones is basically was my most favorite band in the whole world growing up. So that's an easy one.
Yeah. Dude, that's amazing that you mentioned Shark Quest. I listened to them. I'm from Durham, Chapel Hill, and went to high school. I was in high school in the 90s and was in a band. And Superchunk was huge, but the band that we were like obsessed with, like Polvo, Archers of Loaf, Spatula, and I know Shark Quest was part of that.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of like weird, kind of dissonant indie rock happening around then. And that was a huge influence on me. I didn't really realize how much of an influence it was until more recently, because not long after that I got like completely obsessed with bluegrass from the music of basically David Grisman.
Yeah,
And then
Grisman
through that,
Quintet
Tony
is-
Rice. I would say the first Grisman Quintet album, hands down, is the reason I'm here. So
Yep, me too.
Yeah,
Well.
I would say even for me, the Bad Plus, and being
Definitely.
and then
Plus.
so having a drummer who plays in a all instrumental trio producing the record, like it couldn't help but to guide it, in a cohesive way that actually made sense for the bands, and even some like older like rock bands. And I bring that up only because some of these older rock bands that had trios just for their instrumentation, they got such a huge full sound out of it. And that's kind of what we do, where we're getting this great big sound, but it really is just the three of us, and there's almost kind of these rock and roll elements to it in that way.
Man, yeah, the trio, it almost forces you to like bigging up what you're doing. I mean, it's like
Bigging it
there's
up.
only three of us, so you know.
I
Yeah.
was telling Steve when I listened to you guys, it's like there might as well be 7 people on stage
Yeah.
because that's what it sounds like.
And I think that's where the power trio term kind of comes from. Is that because it's only a trio, everyone's forced to like bring it. Like, I mean, you have to work hard and
Right. There's no. There's
pull a lot of weight.
Yeah, it changes the way we play for sure. It really does.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
to make that flow.
Yeah, it's never boring. You're never up there waiting for your next solo.
Yeah.
You're doing something.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
if you're not soloing, you're being the rhythm section.
Yeah.
The addition of the bass element, like, it was a really big turning point, I think, for our whole sound.
Totally.
Using bass amps and octave pedals.
I'll never forget the first rehearsal that I brought that octave pedal to at your old house.
Yeah, man.
And I was like, second I plugged it in, I was like, game changer.
Yeah.
I was
Totally
like, we got to get you one now.
Yeah. Time we switched to bass amps from like electric guitar amps, and just like turning on that octave pedal, and then it's just like, it's like all of a sudden, this little violin actually sounds like a bass.
Yeah, and it helped me too, because like my drumming style is, I'm like a rock drummer turned everything else, and so it's really hard for me to really like enjoy playing nimble and quiet and soft and
bassless.
Yeah, exactly. Bassless. Like I've never had that experience. And so I remember in the beginning they were kind of like, maybe we could do brushes, or maybe we can. I was just like, oh, really? And then they brought these bass amps and the bass pedals and stuff in, and all of a sudden I was like, this is what I'm used to, and that really kind of.
Which the opener on the new record is a soft tune with brushes.
It is. In fact, there's a bunch of tunes with brushes on the new record, but we're not doing it live.
This album, we actually did. We had several more tracks than we did before of that lighter kind of the softer sound, and then we had so much fun doing those tunes, the Aphex Twin tune, and
it's too one of the things like live. Our dynamic is much more up, whereas like with records, especially this past record, we approached it as a record, where, whereas live,
we're like a journey of a thing to listen to.
Yeah, let's do some more sounds where, where our live thing is pretty much up, full volume, rocking. But then we do a lot of house concerts, listening rooms with no PA and stuff, where we do a lot more mellow material. So.
See where you were and how you've progressed? Do you have any kind of idea of where that takes you? Can you just describe what the process was like, what it was like to get to where you are?
I really think it's like an incremental thing that I feel like so much of our music, I don't even realize how we got to where it is, but you can definitely look back to where it was and realize it changed.
We used to suck. Yeah. No, seriously. Yeah, we honestly, there was a lot of early shows I think back on. It's like it was always very experimental. Especially early on.
Mixed in with some really just some bluegrass.
Some
bluegrass, and so it wasn't until I guess it was I don't know.
When we got Patrick.
When we got Patrick, and then we needed to do a record. So
yeah.
that's when the whole
Right.
we should probably get a producer to help us make it better. Then we got the Dave King connection, and then we did Lost at Last, and that was really like, okay, this is what we are gonna do.
We've had a nice pinpointed direction since Lost at Last, whereas before then we were like nobody was at odds with each other. We were just kind of collectively trying to figure out what do we do. I mean, I have I would take pictures of some set lists, and I just came across one from like 3.5 years ago, and I was like, oh my god, all these songs that were singing,
all the songs that were like, we did it every single show. Like every show we played Sitting on Top of the World.
Basically, I would say in my mind, we started out with this concept of like, let's pick bluegrass, but instead of having a train beat, let's make the beat be halftime funky.
Yes. No train beat was an early thing that we.
And so we'll just like do a bunch of picking. And then, but like make it put a funky like drum beat behind it, and that was like the basic concept, you know.
Morphed from that.
So, and then thinking about the future, it's really interesting to think about. I mean, we're obviously going to keep moving forward, I think, really just for our own sakes. Like, we've got more music in us, and we want to do new things to keep it fresh and make it not be boring. But, we're constantly figuring out new ways, like with pedals, and our technical setup is growing still, and I've got a lot of things as soon as we have the budget for it that I want to do to take that up a whole nother level sonically, and I think the music will just keep moving along. I mean, it's naturally growing.
I think a lot about this album, The Ride of Strings. It's John Luke-Ponty, Stanley Clark, and Aldi Meola, and they. It's not that I want to like copy what they do, but they have this. It's an acoustic album that they do that's like, they just know how to interact musically in this like using just all these really, really creative ways that's not just a rhythm with a melody. Like, you know, like all these musical devices that they do acoustically. It's pretty acoustic. And I don't know, I always have that album in my mind as some template of like, you can just make up ways to interact. You know?
And it's too, we keep thinking of more stuff like that too. It's like, I think as long as the new ideas keep coming, I mean, I would say that I'm gonna have ideas for this group for quite some time to come. And maybe when they run out, that's when we'll take a break or something, you know. It's like, as long as it's still flowing, I mean.
There's also the aspect of our live show. I think we probably spend more time thinking about that even than actual recording. Like, we want to have lights, or we want to have, you know, in-ear monitors, and how do we transition in between songs and all that kind of stuff, because
creating an experience.
As much as we play live, that's just as much attention needs to be put on that than it does the material that we're putting
And
out.
it's really our bread and butter too. I mean, is live performances right now. I mean, record sales aren't really paying the bills. I mean,
Steve's like, live album, guys. Live album.
Yeah, live album. We've talked about that. We've actually talked about that.
Yeah. Probably should happen.
Stickley Trio. All right. It's like stopping a freight train out here, I'll tell you what. Let's give them a good festival send-off here. 1, 2, 3. Festival! All righty. Great job. I thought we were going to have to do the John Hartford deal where he says shaving a haircut will stop a freight train. We almost had to get that out. That was wonderful. Love you guys. All right, these guys are skunk worthy.